Anyway, that's why I no longer use like pureed banana as a coffee creamer. So,
Yeah, gross.
well, just saying. That was a little aggressive. I just turned down those fall leaves a little bit.
Oh, church steeple. How's the weather in Longview today?
It's like it like fluctuates from a little chilly to a little warm.
All right, so you're going through your first fall away from Kansas City. What's a little chilly for you?
Well, I mean, like sometimes it can be like
Out of Kansas, not Kansas
like
City.
50 degrees, and like when it hits about 50, that's when I'm like, okay, well maybe I will pack a jacket. Like maybe I'll, and when I say jacket, I mean my light Columbia. Like that at that point, I'm like, okay, well I'll do that. But I don't know. But it's, what is it right now? Because it didn't feel that warm outside or that cold. It's 64 out there right now, so I'm still short sleeves and shorts. Like I don't think I'm gonna put on a pair of pants outside of Sundays mornings in Texas. Like I think I'm going to, when I get my what I love about Christmas and my birthday is I get Duluth cards, gift cards, and so then I wait till the off season and I buy stuff. And I think instead of buying, I'm gonna buy one pair of jeans because I realized that my Sunday jeans have a hole in them, and I'm gonna buy some more shorts because I love their shorts.
Oh, so you're not going to wear pants. You're going to wear shorts. You're not just going around in your chonies.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Just clarify for the.
So that's what's chilly to me. Like I don't actually get that chilly very often. So the other morning I left and it was like 45 degrees. So I was like, oh, this is nice. So I put on my shorts and I put on my Columbia jacket. Drove Sam to Mother's Day out. Spent all day in the office. I do a lot of office work on Mondays. And then I went to go get Sam, and then we left, and it was like 78 degrees outside. I was like, are you kidding me? So.
Are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me?
It was 68 degrees when I left the house this morning, and I wore a coat, so.
Oof.
Bad news because of my foot is I really have to leave my doors and windows on because I can't.
Oh, your Jeep. Because you can't take them off?
I can take them off, but when I take them off, I got to hop around on one foot to get them loaded and moved, and it's just not easy. So it's a kind of dumb.
It's a process.
It is. I hate it. I say, man, I complain a lot about it. But there's so many people that have it worse off than a roller cart around for 4
Like, I drive a Ford Edge, and I can't take the doors and windows off at all. So you should be happy you have that on. Oh, you're talking about because you're broken foot.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought you were saying, like, a lot of people have it worse off because we don't have that option.
Well, I do know that so many people have it worse off than us Jeepers. My mirrored camera over here has me really kind of backed up.
Yeah, but on my stream, it's right.
I know. I was trying to move my hands, my fingers, like when I think I'm moving my left one, and it's actually the right one. So trying to corner it over here.
I know it was a joke.
Oh. Uh-huh.
Awkward.
I hope this is not a premonition of things to come, Aaron.
All right. Okay, boomer.
Boomer? Not a boomer. Not even close to being a boomer.
Sounds like what a boomer would say.
My dad's generation is the boomer generation. Mercy.
So funny.
Here we go.
Till we're all growing a beard. man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for beer.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is Behind the Beards. Here on Behind the Beards, we pull the curtain back, take a look behind the scenes, and reveal the things you need to know about the people who are called to lead your churches and your ministries. I'm Joshua Fowler, a preaching minister in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and my always beautifully bearded brother on the other side of the screen, Aaron Partlow, youth minister in Longview, Texas. Aaron, you will be happy to know that I get to my beard can come back. My football season is over, and as much as that pains me to say, it does mean that I can grow my beard out again, which I miss it, man. I saw some pictures from a few months back, and I was like, oh man, I feel so much more complete with a little bit of facial hair. I always just feel weird.
Canadian viewers were to ask, how about that?
How about that?
Get it because you're in a walking boot.
I'm in a walking boot, yes. So for those that don't know, I left the podcast last week on Tuesday afternoon. Called a football game and ended up breaking my foot in that football game. It was a 7 and 8 year old flag football game, and I ended up breaking my foot in that. And,
did you just hit a pothole, or?
Well, I'll share it later because it actually goes pretty well with what we're talking about today. So I actually was running backwards and I made a turn and my foot caught and I rolled it and all my weight came down on top of my rolled ankle. And I broke my 5th metatarsal. It's an unstable break, and I'm in a walking boot and on a roller cart for 4 weeks. Oof is right.
Rough. Not chill vibes on the opening of Behind the Beards.
It's pretty chill. Really, it could be worse. I told somebody the other day, I was like, sometimes God says slow down, and if you don't listen to him, he breaks a bone and forces you to slow down.
Oof, crazy.
I'm sure there's some bad theology in there.
We could unpack that theology next week on Behind the Beards. By the way, we are sponsored now by Mountain Dew and McCafe.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's great. And Jeep.
Cafe. And Jeep. And Behind the Beards. I decided to wear my Behind the Beards gear. I've realized I hadn't worn any of our merch in a while.
You'll never know what hat I'm wearing because
that's true.
I refuse to wear hats forward, which is a character flaw I have found out.
Well, see, when you don't have hair and you wear your hat backwards, you get this giant
lines.
Bald spot in front. That just doesn't look right, so...
I just get this when my hair gets too wavy up here. That's when I know that I need to get a haircut.
when you get a tan line on your forehead.
That's right. So today on Behind the Beards, Josh is going to tell us what we're talking about today. This is something that he's going to do right now.
Oh, all right. Well,
I know. I feel like I was going to say something there, but
then it didn't come out, huh?
Well,
the question is. The question we're going to answer today, I think, is: does what you do really matter? That's one of the things that we hear a lot. We've heard it a lot from the time we were kids. That your action matters. And you and I were talking at Soul Quest a couple of years back. I remember kind of being on a Thursday, and one of the speakers was talking, and he had all the youth workers and chaperones stand up, and he said, "Hey, I want you to know something. May not feel like it, but what you do really matters." And then everybody kind of dispersed, and we were sitting there, and I think we were both like, I didn't really realize how much I needed to hear that.
Yeah. It's true.
Just that bit of encouragement that says what you do matters. It makes a difference, even though you can't see it. And that's really...
I think for me, it was the genuality of it. That's not a word, but how genuine it was.
Right.
It is more than just saying like, "Hey, I appreciate you. You're doing a good job." And then next week, all of a sudden, it's, "Well, you suck. You did this." But it was like, it was not like just a fleeting, "Hey, what you do matters. It was like a really sincere, like he stopped and he made eye contact, and I mean, I guess it felt like he made eye contact with almost every
With
youth leader
everyone
in the
there.
room. Yeah, and it was just like, yeah, it was good. So, crazy story. We were just I just had staff meeting, and our senior minister was telling this great story about this preacher's initiative that he went to this weekend. And he said they was in this room, and he went to this class, and there was I might tell the story wrong, so it's fine, because it's not that important. But anyway, well, it's not important to the point of the story. But he said he got in this room, and there was this guy who'd been preaching for like 60 plus years, and he just recently retired right before all this COVID stuff happened, right? Literally retired out of a full-time ministry right before COVID all started. And he said he got in the room, and the first thing he said was he looked at them all, and he says, I really hope that you all weather the storm. Because if you don't know, like, like there is a mass preacher shortage. Like there are churches who are looking for preachers, and there's no one graduating. There's nobody. There's a lot of people who just like pulled the card and said, I'm done. I'm out. I'm done. I'm tired of it. I'm gone. And they just quit. And that trickles down. And so you have the same effect into youth ministry. You have the major effect into children's ministry, which it's already extremely difficult in our fellowship to find a children's minister in general. And so it's ridiculous. And so it's really hard. But he said the guy just said, this is there has never been a time in our history, in our movement, where it has been probably more difficult for minister leaders. And he said, I really hope. He said, and then he said this was really funny. He said, I really hope you weather the storm, and just know that the young guys of the future will be so excited when you're dead. Because all you will do was tell stories about how they need to toughen up because they didn't live through these years.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna be those. Yeah, we're gonna be those guys. But it's that idea of just weathering that storm, and I think that kind of plays into this. I'm sorry for that tangent, but yeah,
That's okay. No, I think it's a good one. I think it starts with, we're in this place as ministers, as teachers, where you're always in a position where you are trying to inspire, teach, and train people to act a certain way.
yeah,
And so, the question, does what you do really matter, kind of has two tones to it. Like, number one, does it have value? But also, number two, does your activity and your action Oh, Sam, I love your son. I really do. He's a great kid. But does your actual action have an effect on the people that are around you and the things that go on around you? So,
yeah,
do I have the ability to preach and teach on something and then actually implement that in my own life? Because sometimes, while I may acknowledge that I preach to the mirror and hope that it speaks to other people,
yeah,
putting that into action is often really hard. And
it is.
so I can talk about people living with peace and living with intentionality and purpose and being driven in that way. And if I'm going to preach and teach that to our people, I've got to be able to put that into as an example, right?
Yeah.
And say, I can't be content to just say, hey, you know what? Just do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
But to say, no, I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to do it perfectly, but here's an example of one of the ways it looks like to put these truths into practice. And I think it's a really important aspect of.
So in some way, are we talking a little bit about like preacher's integrity? Or where are we headed with this? Because I translate that as a form of integrity, but we might be headed in a different direction.
Well, so I would call it like Christian integrity more than anything, but really it's just a matter of, for me, it's not integrity because I'm not choosing a different path. It's just a matter of I'm encouraging you to live this way, and then sometimes I ask myself the question: does it really matter what I do? Because I live a certain way, and I look out and I see that it doesn't seem to be having any effect. So kind of why am I doing this?
It's almost like this conversation of, I live this way, but I don't see it affecting others, so it doesn't matter. And so we ask the question, are we only living that way so that we can affect others, or is there a higher meaning to why we act that way?
Right.
And I guess I would say, I would go yes, because, like, I'm gonna guess, like, we could be cheesy and be like, well, I'm pretty sure Noah probably thought the same thing, or we have plenty of those, like, kind of examples like that. But it's kind of like that. It's that catch-22 of, hey, do you do it for God, or you do it because God wants you to do it, and so you do it? You can get, like, caught in this endless loop. Am I doing it because I want to do it because it's right in the eyes of God, or am I doing it because God wants me to do it and I want to make God happy, kind of. And I know it sounds like I'm saying the same thing, but it's not. It's like trying to chase your true motives, kind of a thing. And it could be extremely, like, difficult to really hammer that down and things like that. And so, I would say yes. Like, yes. It does matter. Like, I choose to live this way because it's the way that God calls me, the way that God tells me that I'm supposed to live. I hope that it influences and affects others. But if it doesn't, it's me. Well, I thought we were headed down a path a little bit differently, so that was kind of funny.
We can head down whatever path you want to head down, because this is just something that kind of came into my mind this morning. But some of it is motivation. About when you talk about motivation, is it the results that I can see in other people that motivates me to live differently, or is it understanding the grace and mercy of God that exists in my life that motivates me? And so I think sometimes we can get into this path of determining the value of our action based on other people's response. And when that occurs, then it's kind of hard for me to see whether or not that my action is effective. Because, we see that ripple effect, right, as one of the things that we talk about regularly. And when you throw a rock into a still pond, and you look how far out there is an effect. And sometimes we're not able to see beyond the first couple of waves of our influence.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that can make it really difficult, as not just as preachers and teachers, but as humans, that if I can't see an immediate response, how do I continue to do the difficult things in life when I don't really see the effect that it has on other people?
So then here's like the big question, right? It doesn't matter.
We can't answer that question right away. We still got like 30 minutes to go.
Well,
we got to work our way there. But yes, that is the question.
That's the question.
Does it matter?
So we talk about this, like, yeah, and it's difficult not to see the ripple effects. It's difficult not to see, like, if it's actually doing anything. But again, that comes back to, the motives. Am I doing this because I want to see that I'm making a change? Or is it all about, hey, I'm planting the seed and I'm hoping that God's going to allow growth and do this kind of thing? I think, like, a lot of ministers can see this in their work as well. Like, you work at a church for so many years, and, you don't see any growth. I also think this goes into a sidebar about, like, what is your minister supposed to be and do? Because I've had to contemplate this a lot, and I'm still, like, really up in the air, and I have discussions about this all the time with people, and it's not because I'm trying to fight anything or anything. It's really just like a discussion. Like, if you hire a youth minister, what are you hiring? Are you hiring an evangelist? somebody who's going to go to the school, somebody who's going to reach out to youth, somebody who's going to do all that? Or are you hiring somebody who's going to minister to the family and to the families and the teens who are showing up, who are there, who are a part of the system, you know? Because I think if you're hiring an evangelist, I think it's great to support evangelists. I do. I'm not anti-supporting evangelists, but are we trying to then, hire out our responsibilities?
Mm-hmm.
I love watching like Dirty Jobs, and I love watching cooking shows and stuff like this. And people talk about all the time about how there's so many jobs that are available that people just don't want to do because they're dirty or they're gross or they take hard work. Like, they pay well. You can live off the money, great. You can support your family. It just means you have to actually like get up and work really hard for it,
right.
And so I often wonder, like, in our faith, like, hey, do we expect, like, hey, this preacher's not effective because there's not random people off of the street coming in and wanting to learn from his feet, or learn at his feet, not from his feet. Is that how we judge effectiveness? Well, in the past, Aaron would be sitting here going, yeah, this guy sucks. Like, nobody wants to come hear him. This is crazy. But I think that's wrong now. Like, I sit here and I go, no, I mean, maybe he needs to have a conversation with the church and about your congregation about, oh, by the way, it is your responsibility to be evangelizing, to be having Bible studies. It's not my job only to have Bible studies and disciple others. It's your job to do that. And, I've been thinking about that a lot in my youth ministry. Like, am I training teenagers to evangelize and then disciple their friends, as they are following after Jesus, and so is our church bodies doing that. And so I guess coming back to what we're talking about, like, that plays into that mindset of, do what I do, really matters, and how we do it, and all that jazz.
No, I think it's really important, and I think it's important for us to understand that even when you can't see that influence, to really understand that what you do does really matter. Number one, because it's important for you to have integrity, and that's kind of where we started, because it is at some point a conversation about integrity, about motivation. So even if what you do only matters to God, is that enough to motivate you to live the right way?
Sure. The obvious answer is yes, it should. The question is does it?
And so,
right, that's always the question. Like, that's like the straight up Sunday preacher question. Is like, the answer is always yes. We should be doing this.
And let's talk about how and why.
But that's not the hypothetical. It's, are you doing it? It's not the, are you the best Christian at doing this? It's, no, like, legitimately, are you doing this? When did you do this last? Getting down to the nuts and bolts.
And what makes it so difficult is not being able to see the influence that we have. I told you I would share the story about my foot, all right? I broke my foot refereeing football because two grown men couldn't get along on a 9-year-old baseball field.
Nice.
All right? So that's
baseball?
That's why, that's where it all started. They have fall baseball and fall flag football going on at the same complex.
Uh-huh.
And in the baseball complex, there were two coaches that were about to get into a fight over a 9-year-old coach's pitch baseball game. And so because they're about to get in a fight, the commissioner of our league, who was on another field, had to leave. And he took my second official and put him on another field with another kid. And so I'm calling a game on my own, having to cover both sidelines of this football game.
Ooh, that's a lot of running.
It is, and it's a lot of running. It's a lot of running backwards because you have to stay on the goal line. You got to cover both sidelines. And so I was backpedaling and turning with the running back when I tripped and fell and broke my ankle.
Oof.
Or I broke my foot. So because two grown men can't get along over a 9-year-old baseball team, I broke my foot. I'm on this cart for 4 weeks. I missed out on 3 weeks of playoff football traveling all over the state with the guys I've been working with all the year. I missed out on all the activities that we're about to take on our Christmas trip because I'll still be in a boot when we go take that trip. And wherever we're going, my kids watching this, they won't watch it after Christmas if they do. We're supposed to go to the Grand Canyon to go hiking, and we're supposed to go skiing.
Yeah.
Can't go skiing, and I'll be hiking the Grand Canyon in a walking boot if I'm able to walk by then. So, because two grown men can't get along on a 9-year-old baseball field, all of these things occur in my life, and those guys will never know the effect of their action. So it works negatively. It also works positively. I mean, sometimes there are things that you do that affect people in ways that you never know. And if all we're focused on is this little sphere of influence that we're able to see directly, we look and we just go, well, it doesn't really affect anybody anyway. Why would I even bother?
Right.
But there is so many aspects of the influence that we have in positive and negative ways that the answer is certainly what you do matters. And even when you don't think it matters more than you think it does. And the easy answer is because it's important to God. And yeah, that's true. But the other true answer is it impacts people in ways that you could never even imagine.
Yeah.
And so even though you can't see it, even though you can't feel it, even though you can't detect it, just know that it does matter. It does make a difference. And sometimes those effects are long reaching and you may not ever know them. You might know them years later. I want to go make it known to those guys. Say, hey, just so you know, you guys acting like little toddlers has really affected me in a severely negative way.
Right. Yeah. No joke.
But would that be the Christian thing to do?
Would it?
Have you ever had somebody come back like way after the fact and tell you how something like influenced or affected them, something that you taught or something, an activity that you did or anything?
I had legitimately, I had a sorry. I did. I actually had a teenager one time. It was so random. I taught a class, felt like it was okay, didn't feel like it was a ballpark, anything like hit it a home run whatsoever. Was a teen who kind of sometimes like seriously like drove me up a wall. Would say kind of like those rude comments to try to get you tilted, all that kind of stuff, and later he texted me and he said, man, that was a really good Bible class. That's what I really needed to hear tonight. He didn't say anything like to tilt me anything that night or any of that kind of stuff, but he just, just texted me randomly and was like, man, that was a really good Bible class. And then just recently, we had our Netsis Fall Days, Northeast Texas Summer Youth Series Fall Days at Shiloh Road. It was awesome. We had these really great t-shirts. It was a really great day. I had a lot of fun sitting around eating a quesadilla with one of my teenagers, all my teenagers. We were eating lunch, and one of the juniors, we're talking about something, and he's like, well, yeah, and it's like what you said in Bible class on Sunday, yada yada yada, and just listed off part of the yeah, and my eyes wait, what? And he's like, yeah, man, we listened to what you say, it's good. One of those, and I was like, yeah, but you don't ever really say that you're listening. I think it was last Wednesday, so it was a Saturday, and it was 2 Wednesdays ago that he was referencing, and I was like, whoa, that was a long time ago. I can't believe. So I don't know. It was just crazy.
I'll catch people sometimes that will, a couple of weeks later, will, in kind of in a joke, will reference something in a sermon. And sometimes it's an example, and they'll say, oh, kind of doing this or this or this. And it's like, oh,
yeah,
they were listening.
They were listening. How weird.
I actually had a really cool. So, a couple months ago, one of the guys that comes to church here, had sent me a message, and he said, you know, I have a friend who's struggling with a pretty severe disease, and he's really struggling with, he feels like God has abandoned him, and he really doesn't know what to do with his theology, because everyone around him is telling him that if his faith were strong enough, God would heal him, even though there's not really a cure for what he has. And so that's why it's being kind of put into him. And he hasn't really completely abandoned God, but he's really abandoned faith. He said, how do I start a conversation with him? And we talked about that for a little bit. And then a few weeks ago, I started a sermon series on doubt. And we started with John the Baptist, how John the Baptist is in prison. He's about to be beheaded. He's given his whole life to preparing the way for Jesus. And before his death, he sends a message to Jesus, and he says, are you the one, or should we look for someone else? Right. So that just moment of, man, please tell me that I haven't given everything up for nothing, that I haven't wasted my life and led all these people astray, pointing them towards you. And, my friend called me afterwards, and he said, I think you're the guy that needs to talk to my friend. He said, I sent him a link to your sermon on doubt this past week. And for the first time since he's contracted this disease, he actually said something positive about his faith in God and the path forward. Even though he's still pretty angry about it, he actually spoke about it in positive terms. And this is a guy that I've never met. And I said, what's crazy, Mike, is I planned those sermons last Thanksgiving. I didn't write them, but I laid out, the path, for that. And I kicked around, kind of didn't really feel like it fit, didn't really feel like the time, but it was there. And so we went with it, and I wrote it. I said, God, when you just surrender and let him work through you, he will do things in lives of people that you may have never met, may have never come into contact with.
Yeah.
And it's those little things that remind you, for the good and for the bad. Like, sometimes what you do really affects people in a negative way, and you may not ever see that, but it has an influence. And in the same way, the things you do can influence people for the good in ways that you may never see as well.
Sure.
So, the truth is, and we've talked about it several times, does what you do matter? Mm-hmm. It does matter.
It does.
It does matter. And not only does it matter, it has value. Because I think that's two different questions, right? Does it matter? It does matter because God said so.
Right, yeah.
Because we should be motivated about what it is to love and to serve and to glorify God over man and all things. But it also has value because there is an influence going on that you may never see, but it does affect people in ways that we could never really imagine.
And it's been one of those things that I've been wrestling with because, so consumerism. Consumerism is something that is devouring our nature, devouring our nation, and devouring our churches. It's devouring us. We go to church, and if we don't like something at church, we leave, right? Oh, wow, right. They did this, and so I'm going to leave. That's our first nature. And man, we need more preachers, we need more shepherds, we need more elders. When people say, oh yeah, well, we used to go to this church and now we're coming here, to say, why'd you leave? Why did you feel like you couldn't work that out?
Right.
Well, can we meet with you and those elders and help kind of, I don't know, that's overstepping, but, since we're, autonomous, but it's like that idea of why do you think that the church is there only to give to you? And it's like we've forgotten that it's our job to give to the church. It's our job to give to God. It's our job to serve God. We always teach kids hey, praying is not all about, hey, God, give me. And it's not about, hey, God, thank you for this, now give me this. Thank you for that, now give me this. Now thank you for this, now give me that. Like, that's not the relationship that we have with God, and that's not the relationship we should have with the church. And yet we live in this consumeristic. So I say that to say, like, then I get to, youth ministry, and, I can teach your teenagers, and I strive to teach your teenagers, but what are you teaching your teenagers at home? Are you continuing these lessons? Are they moving in? And so this is where I wrestle with this question the most. Does what I do really matter? Because if it's not being reinforced at home, or if parents aren't raising their children to be like Christ and putting God and Jesus first, like, is it really fair to say, oh, look at all these teenagers leaving youth ministry, it's the youth minister's fault?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I struggle with that. And I've been trying to break through this, because I get tired of people writing books and being like, how your youth ministry is failing because your youth ministry is this. And I'm like, my youth ministry is not failing. It's doing pretty good, but it can only do so much because I only get your teenagers so much. I have a family. I have a God-given right to be with my family and teach them about Jesus and about God. And that comes straight from the Bible. And I guess I've just been focusing on Deuteronomy chapter 6 so much and all that. And it's like, parents, you have to take responsibility for teaching your children about Jesus. And I challenge you, if you have not sat down and told your teenagers ever about why you believe in Jesus, and not, I just always have gone to church. No. Tell them your convicted reason on why you choose, and maybe you need to think about that yourself. And so this question checks that box for me, for Aaron Partlow as the youth minister. Sure. And so I try to do things that matter. And I guess what really grinds my gears is sometimes I think man, we don't do enough fun activities. We should play a game on Wednesday. And then I'm like, well, I really want to play a game, but at the same time, I really want to study the Bible, because I don't know if they're going to read the Bible any other time throughout the week. And then, you get some people who kind of say, well, they just need to have some fun. Have you ever thought about just playing a game with them or doing one of these fun events? And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to do a fun event. Have you ever thought about, I don't know, reading the Bible with your child at home?
Because if you would do more of that, I could do more fun stuff.
And that's the truth. And that is the straight up truth. And I think And I know that sounds kind of crass, and I'm not coming down on anybody, and I don't have any. This is not anyone specifically that I'm thinking of. That's not how this is going. It's just processes that I go through, because I'm really constantly looking at okay, this month's coming up. This is what we normally do. This is what I'm putting on the calendar. Does this matter? Is this have worth? Kind of a substance, kind of a thing. Or how am I going to get worth out of this? Wednesday night's coming up. How am I going to challenge these teens, in 45 minutes, and push them to try to be more like Jesus, and those kind of things. And so I'm hoping that what I'm doing is what God's calling me to do and pushing me and wanting me to do. But I honestly ask this question to myself, does it really matter? Because if it's not being reinforced at home, man, it's I don't know, some really great analogy where, the analogy that I always think of is I'm like a vitamin, right? And if all you do to try to stay healthy and fit is take a vitamin, you're not going to be healthy and you're not going to be fit, because it takes working out, it takes eating right, it takes being active, it takes all these other things that go into it. And so I offer the vitamin, the booster, the extra goodness. But if parents and if it's not going on at home, if it's not a part of your life, and I guess this doesn't just go for youth ministry, this goes for in general. If you come to church on Sunday morning and you're like, man, I just want to be changed, and then you go out Sunday afternoon and you just ride that waitress or waiter over the coals who's working on a Sunday, who you're having them serve you on a Sunday, you know, instead of going to a restaurant and saying, this is the day I'm going to serve the servers. You know, I've never heard of any religious leader doing that, you know, who would serve people who are supposed to be serving them. You know, it's
Said
crazy.
with as much sarcasm as possible.
Said with as much sarcasm as possible. You know, then how do you expect to be changed if, you know, if you're not changing, if you're not putting any active effort into it, you know? So what do you, so yeah. Okay. Hold on. Let me just, where's the soapbox? Let me get off of it.
Yeah. No,
I'll let you get a
the
word
truth
in.
is the truth is it does start at home. But that's also true for us as ministers, right? Because I think a lot of times as ministers, it is so easy for us to say, hey, I do my work for the church, I do my work for the kids, I do my work for the families, and surely that will just kind of boil over into my house. And that
Oh
will
yeah.
just boil over into my kids.
Oh,
And they
man.
will see the work that we're doing. And because I'm in
Thanks,
the office
Josh.
every day, I'm on the phone every day, I'm over here. You said, you tried it, so I'm not putting you on blast, right?
No, I feel it now.
I'm just
This is
I'm
good
just
sermon.
reminding people that we're here. It's so
Mm-hmm.
easy for me to say, man, I do this every day, and my kids see this, and my wife sees this, and so they get enough of that.
Yeah.
And you know, they need me to pray with them in the morning before they go to school. They need me to remind them, you know, at home in their daily life that, you know,
Wow.
their main priority is to glorify God in all they do with their friends and their girlfriend or their boyfriend or their teachers, and even at the house.
Yeah.
They need to see their mother and me talking about those things together and praying over decisions that we have to make as a family.
Yeah.
That become a part of our home. And the truth is, I tell our church every other week at least, like, we're living in a world that's messed up, it's jacked up, and it is getting worse because everything tends towards chaos. Said, here's the thing, church, you have the thing that cures all the problems the world you're living in has. But it has to start in your home.
Yeah.
Because if you go out and broadcast the transforming power of Jesus to the world and they look and see no bit of transformation in you, why are they going to want it?
What do they say every time on an airplane about the air, about the masks?
Put it on yourself first.
Put it on yourself first before you put it on somebody else. You have to have this change within yourself before you're going to change anybody else.
Yeah. And so it is easy
Wow.
for me as a minister to get into this place that just says, you know what? I'm living this life, but nobody else is really making any changes on their own. I can't be the only one that's putting this into people and people's lives. I don't even know if what I do really matters at all. And it's
Also-
easy to get in that point of despair and just say, let's just be fun like everybody else.
I used to make fun of Elijah so much. Right? Like, man, there are so many times when like I would read Bible studies when I was younger and I'd be like, he is such a crybaby. I just performed this big miracle and I'm the only one who believes. And now as an adult in ministry, I'm like, man, I
get
hear
it.
you. There is nobody who is faithful. And yet there are so many people. So even like hearing that statement and going, yeah, oh, you know, after you verbalize that, like, ooh, you know,
Yeah.
like sitting there and thinking, because I've been in that spot where I go, man, I'm doing all this work, but nobody's doing anything. And then like saying it out loud, I'm just like, that's probably not true. Like there's probably people who are actually doing a lot more than I'm doing.
It's not just that it's not the right attitude to have. It's probably that it's really not true. I'm just really self-involved right now.
Yes,
And-
very much. Wow. That's crazy. This has been a really good podcast for me. I'm sorry that nobody else got anything out of it, but it's been really good for me.
I think the behind the beards moment, unless you have anything else,
I literally have nothing else to give.
is just simply this. And I'm going to look at all of you who are listening in the eyes or watching in the eyes and who are listening in the ears and just say this. What you do matters.
Yeah.
What you do matters. Not only does it matter to God because He is our Creator and our Redeemer and our Lord and our King, but it matters to the people who are in your life. It matters even to those people who are on the fringes of your life. And just like the ripples of a stone in a pond, move out and eventually reach the shore. The things you do matter to people in ways that you may never see or comprehend. So,
Absolutely.
this goes right in line with what we leave you with every day, and I'll leave it to you with that because
Right.
what you do matters.
What you do matters, and we want to thank you for being here today because it matters to us. It matters to us that you guys watch the show. It matters to us that you send us emails, that you leave us comments, that you interact with chat, or even that just like a random stranger walked up to me one day and went like, "Hey, I like your podcast. It's pretty nice." And I was like, "What?" Okay. So we want to thank you guys for being here today. We also want to remind you of this, Galatians 6:9. Do not grow weary in doing good. This world is messy. This life is messy. So allow Christ to do you something different, to use you to do something different, something good in His name. I'm Aaron, and this is Josh, and we'll see you next week on Behind the Beards.
Till we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.
Do you know Platosaurus?
That's me.
I thought it was, but then I was like, I don't know if it is or not.
That's me. I was like, I should start hosting the channel. Which is why our viewer count kept going up and down, up and down, up and down a little bit. Because we were getting some of my 115 followers.
Nice.
Of random youth group kids who have found out that I stream like every month, like once.
Once. And this is not what they wanted to see, so they would hop on and go, oh, that's not it.
Yeah,
He's not
probably
playing a game.
He's not playing a game, Destiny or World of Warcraft. So, that's funny.
No, that's awesome. Want to become famous? Buy followers and viewers. Bigfellows.com.
Well, I was also going to try to get onto our Twitch and report and block that. Because you're supposed to do that for bots, but...
Oh,
well.
Yeah. Oh, well, oh, well.
Oh, well, oh, well. Not a big deal.